Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Ben from Universal Audio. Welcome back to another special edition of Office Hours. This week, as you've hopefully already gleaned, it is Moog Week. We've got a beautiful trailer that you guys just saw for the Minimoog Luna instrument that's available inside of Luna. But not only that, we've got coming up, hopefully it should be arriving tomorrow, the Luna session for the song that you just heard that was composed by Atticus Ross. So we're really stoked to be able to share that, and also all these incredible sessions here on Office Hours this week. We had Che Pope on earlier today. We had Christopher Berg. We had Fab DuPont yesterday. Tomorrow we've got Jimmy Levi from the Album Leaf, and Friday we've got really a special guest, Fart Barf. If you're a synth nerd at all, you'll recognize that name. But also, if you're a synth nerd, you may recognize my guest today, who's kind of a legend in the sound design and session keyboard world. We've got the one and only Huston Singletary.
Hey,
what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. What's up, Ben?
Dude, it's good to hang out again. We had you came up on stage with us at NAMM, not this previous year, but the year before that, and you and I got to nerd out about sampling using. Back then, we were using Console and Ableton and kind of showing how those can all work together. But yeah, we've got Luna has arrived, and you've dove head first into trying it out.
Yeah, I'm all live, as you know, and most folks know, but I would say that I've got a very brief but really enjoyable timeline on it.
That's awesome. So, if anyone's not familiar with your work, your sonic impression has been stamped across so many different synthesizers. I'd love to just pick your brain. What is the sound design process like when you're creating presets for keyboards and workstations?
Yeah, I think the way to explain it, sort of the elevator pitch. There's two ways to look at sound design. You've got sample content side of sound design, where you're out recording things, or you're physically taking a signal from something, recording an old synth and turning it into a sample pack or something like that, or doing field recordings. Then there's preset design. I do both of those things, but my primary focus is preset design with synthesizers, and audio effects, both plug-in, VST, things like UA plugins, for example, or hardware, whether it's a Sub 37 or a System 8, Pro 3, a Phantom. And so basically that process is generally you've got a set of instructions, not necessarily a set number of presets, but just a guide to, like, hey, this is the sound we're looking for. These are the categories. Let's see what you can do with it. And so my role as a preset designer is to hopefully give the end user the experience the moment those hands lay on keys or lay on pads, that they're hearing something that's going to inspire them to make a melody, continue working, or go in and explore that preset. So it could be 60 presets for a Pro 3, for example, which I did last year, or 45 presets for a Phantom, or it could be a whole slew of presets for Ableton and Wavetable or something like that. So, so I kind of bounce around, but I mean, obviously my constant focus is on Ableton, obviously, and but the hardware preset design is wonderful with Moog and Novation and Dave Smith, and it's great and rolling. So
that's awesome.
That's kind of the process. It gets a little more lengthy, but I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
So I tend to think I try to keep the headspace of the musician, but also the musician who might not be at their headspace, might not be under the hood in the synth just yet.
Because for a lot of times, people's first experience, their first touch of a synth is clicking through presets and you nailed it. Like, your goal, it's great to hear that you're approaching it from that point of view, is like you want them to have a great first touch. You want them to like pull something up and just get like within a few clicks, oh, I'm inspired, and then they either just start making music with it or they start tweaking. Either result is positive for.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. That's a constant focus, probably the entire time, whether I'm spending 90 seconds on a preset that I was just inspired from the beginning, or something that's taking a little longer and I'm splitting layers and whatnot. The other thing that I try to focus on is to have an inkling of something that folks can relate to sound wise.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be an old Depeche Mode instrument sound in a track, or something more modern, or there's a specific type of character and how the reverb falls off, or the character of this, what the filter is doing, or the filter envelopes are doing to that sound. So it's like, and if there's I tend to put little hints and preset names too. So,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm thinking as a musician, but a sound designer by trade.
Yeah.
I play
Mm-hmm.
and I make music
Yep.
and I produce, but my heart and soul's in sound design. So it's like, give it to me, let me attack it, you know. So,
Totally. Well, and I've always been curious. Like, I've teased people about this before too. Of preset naming is there's an art to it. It's not just like pull something out of your butt and throw it into the description. It's like you really do want something that like gives you a clue of what it's going to be, but also like it makes it unique and original and stand out from the rest of the presets.
it's you know, I think it was Nick Batt or somebody asked me that one day on Sonic Talk. I think my answer to that is there has to be a bit of stream of consciousness too.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be an improvisatory sort of reaction in your head to kind of be able to move through that quickly. I don't want to spend 45 seconds like trying to labor over a name. It's just, here's the name, it works, go.
Yeah.
Now, when that stacks up to 700 presets for a particular release or some sort of thing like that, it seems mind-boggling, but they just sort of come out.
Mm-hmm.
I try to make them a little clever, you know, a little humorous.
Yeah.
You know, but
Well,
but it's not the end all be all, and or the thing of like Huston lead
mm-hmm.
or something. It's just like, no, stick a fork literally in my eyeballs. It's like, take a minute to sort of think it through.
Uh-huh.
You know, Bernie lead. Okay, that's a start because it's a funky kind of Parliament lead. Okay, where could I go with that?
Yep.
And then it usually turns into something like burn. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
If it helps the user, I try to get the user to get the hands in, start working, and go, oh yeah, that brass patch sounds like this, or this Rhodes does sound like Herbie kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, and so what's your relationship and history with Moogs just in general? Like, what did you have? What was your first love when it comes to Moog keyboards?
well, my first love of Moog keyboards, I was like a lot of folks that I know, especially in my demographic, where I could simply not afford what I was reaching up and playing in the music store.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was probably listening to a lot of those old Jeff Beck records, Jan Hammer, Herbie Hancock, David Frank. He was a wonderful musician, programmer, and discovering that there was this really interesting synth. The lid popped up, and I would see it I'd see it on stage, on like shows and performances. I would see it on the back of album covers.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started to go deeper, I saw the name. I was like, oh, Jeff Lorber plays the Minimoog, an ARP Selena, and this, and a Rhodes. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's the funk. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's like George Duke plays a Minimoog on every one of these tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew the sound. And as I progressed into the 90s, I was finally in position to where I could get my first Moog. And interestingly enough, that was an RA Moog edition. So it was a very early one.
Yeah.
Needed a lot of work, but I got it. It was a classic, you know, sort of find kind of steel thing, and
Mm-hmm.
got a great deal on it. Had that. And then I got my second one in 2002. And that
Nice.
sits at a studio south of Atlanta. And that one's, I think that one's calibrated and working.
And that's a Minimoog as well.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah. And then this is a reissue, which I love to death.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, my infatuation with Moog goes really deep. I've always sort of looked at the sound emphasis and the sonic character of what people gravitate toward in regards to a synthesizer sound
Mm-hmm.
as rounded edged or square edged. Is it a Waldorfy kind of thing, a PPG thing, or is it a kind of puffy rounded edge Moogy kind of thing? Is it a Korg Triton kind of thing, or is it a Roland pad kind of thing? And so I've always leaned a little bit more toward the Roland pad, Minimoog kind of things, the squishy sort of non-metallic, if you will. Not that you can't make the Mini and Luna metallic, but But I just went head deep, and then I struck up a really strong relationship with Moog Music years ago, and I knew Bob, was acquainted with Bob, and I, associated with the Moog Foundation and Michelle, his daughter, and so it runs deep. And then just knowing and appreciating and being such a fan of folks who have used the Minimoog in such great ways, but also currently using it too. I'm a fanboy, just like people are with guitarists.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of guitar, sometimes even more than keys or keyboards. But looking back, it's like I think of the Jan Hammers and the Jeff Lorbers and David Franks and George Duke and all these folks before me and Teddy Riley and like all these people that just do these fantastic things with Moog and just make them sing. And so I try to bring that out in my playing, try to bring it out in my sound design.
Yeah.
Whether Mother 32 or a Sub 37.
Well, it's kind of crazy too. The thing that's really fascinated me, especially about the Minimoog, because Minimoog was not, my first impression of Moogs has been the modern age of Moogs, where it's sub fatties, little fatties. Like that's kind of I came into the digital age of Moog, where it was like I appreciated the analog architecture, but I've always been spoiled by digital controls on it. There's something really special about the simplicity of the Minimoog that, like,
absolutely,
it is, it's you take for granted the sound of it is just like that's the given, but then the fact that it is not the most complicated thing in the world, that there isn't modulation matrices, that there aren't crazy, multiple envelopes for it. It's just 2 envelopes, 3 oscillators, some noise, some feedback. Do you want anything else? Like, well, yeah.
It's hard to walk away from that sound.
Yeah.
It's just and that's the original. And the fact that you've got 1 VCO, 2, maybe 3. Okay, a certain set of waveforms all the way from a skinny pulse to a classic triangle.
Yep.
Not L2 PCM. Not anything wrong with that. I work with that stuff every day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just I keep coming kind of back to that. It's really hard to walk away from it. It really is. It's like I tend to just get over on that Moog. And so it's what I love about the recreation, the virtual in Luna. It's just stunning.
So now, knowing, kind of with having such an intimate knowledge of the OG Minimoog and now hearing the emulation one, what do you feel like? Do they have any differences? Is there anything that you see, any light between those two? Or, what's been your impression of the Luna instrument?
To me, there's a way to really take that with a fine-tooth comb and get super articulate on breaking things down and detint on knob and bakelite of this. But at the end of the day, there's something tactile, and this is an obvious one. This is super obvious.
Yeah.
It's the left. It's like the MPC analogy. When your hands fall a certain way, your hands turn a knob a certain way. When you're playing a Moog and you've got that lid up, whether you're standing, which I tend to do when I play this a lot, or it's flat, you are turning a knob and you're playing at the same time.
Yeah.
Luna is just a different muscle memory. You're clicking, and if you're fancy pants, you got some cool trackpad thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever your game is, but you're clicking and you're sort of looking at this and you're looking at that. But if I know you have the feedback thing.
Yep.
My number one feedback is surface control. Once surface control goes on, I'm sitting here pointing because I'm pointing at Luna, which is
you're pointing at the feedback button.
It's giant Luna's right in front of me on the big screen. But it was probably within 10 minutes of me getting Luna, downloading it, calling it up, diving in, and I was like, oh my God, just give me 8 knobs. Let me assign filter, contour, pitch on Oscillator 2. That's all I want.
That's all you want. Yeah. Well, so it's good. I don't know if you've played around with it yet, but the Minimoog Luna instrument, it is. You can't do the MIDI learn yet. We've been getting lots of feedback from people. We all want MIDI learn, but every parameter on the Minimoog Luna instrument does have a MIDI CC assigned to it. Absolutely. So you end up having to do a little bit of a reverse of like, if you've got a controller that has knobs and faders, you can create a program for your keyboard to be able to control it, and also some of the the two most essential ones, the cutoff filter and the resonance. Those are both tied to the standard MIDI CC. I think it's 74 for brightness. Yep. So like I've got the simple Roland controller right in front of me. It only has 2 knobs, and knob number 1 is straight on cutoff frequency. It's like, oh, there we go. I'm like, it's like 90% of what I want to control.
So basically, what you're saying is you can arm a track. You can be printing a track as well, but you can arm a track, a MIDI lane, and then you just basically can control real time, and then that's feeding that CC information into.
No, so actually, that's you brought up a really good point there. So there's basically 2 ways to be automating the Minimoog plugin. So one, you can be automating it with the MIDI CC data, where you have to have a control that's assigned to that CC. So for instance, on my I have the little knob that's tied to CC 74. So that'll get recorded in as MIDI data along with your notes and velocities.
Yeah, of course.
But if you make the changes inside the GUI as you're playing it, those you have to record as automation in Luna.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's actually, it's super easy on the. Right on the track, you see like right above the fader, above the pan pots, where it says read. If you turn that into either touch or latch mode, you're now instantly automating any parameter on the plugin, and that gives you the full control over it as you're recording.
Yeah. So if I'm playing, I mute this track and just record in. You want me to share my screen?
Yes, please. I was reading my mind over there.
Oh, we'll do it.
Let's see what you're working with.
Pull this up.
There we go.
Here we go. So basically, I've got, and that is playing. Let's close that decay time down. Put a little puffiness on there. Stiffen it up a little bit. I really like what you guys did is this the classic contour. If you go crazy and open this up, and get creative with, because basically what that amount of contour is doing, even when going back to traditional, it's just calculating time. It's just putting a timeline across how long it takes for that signal is going to steady and ebb and flow. So now it's shorter.
Oh, so you're saying it's not just the attack time that influences how long it takes.
It's how long it's passing across that cutoff frequency and across the emphasis, the resonance.
Yeah.
So I've got a sound that I like. Okay, cool. So now we can just. So what you're saying is, now that we're in this our touch. And then if I open up, I should see, where would I see the cutoff?
So those will show up now. So in hit view, right where it says view notes right now. If you click on the word notes, right below the track name on the left-hand side. There you go. And then scroll down. So this is showing you all the automatable parameters across any, both the fader.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
And if it actually grabbed it, then you'd see it select. You would see it have a little orange highlight to it. Yep.
But if I can play, right. So it's in there.
It's in there. So so you can pencil tool it. So if you hold Control and draw, that's how you can pencil tool your automation in there.
Yep.
Yep.
Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on.
There you go. So that's it. So you can draw it in like that. You intuitively just grabbed a region, pulled it up and down. But then the cool thing is having it be in touch mode. You can also right now is the minute you touch the control inside of Minimoog, it'll start automating that parameter as you play it back.
Right. So we'll do that. Let's do that. That'd be cool. Well, it's already doing it.
But then as soon as you touch it, it's going to overwrite, which is
going to touch. Yeah, so it'll touch it at that point. As opposed to latch. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so basically I could do that. I could take 8 knobs. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
I was thinking, the first thing I thought, like literally, as I started playing with it, because the sound is beautiful, was just like, man, just give me real time. Because it goes back to your original question, which is like, how can I get that feel? Because the sound is there. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's ingrained in it. Yeah. So I'm curious, like for people who are perhaps newer to sound design and synthesis just in general, what are the most important parts of the Minimoog for them to really comprehending and get a grasp of, to have fun and find good sounds?
That's a great question. I mean, it's really kind of like there's never a wrong time for a Minimoog class. I think where the line sort of gets fuzzy sometimes is, does that turn into a bombastic Minimoog lick session?
Yeah.
Or something. And it's like, so if I turn off just everything's off, all inputs are off.
Yep. It'll just do nothing now, right?
Now the thing to keep in mind, if you're new, am I there? I think sorry, I thought I hit the space bar. The thing to keep in mind for anyone that's like really new to a Moog, literally with the exception, and I may be wrong on this, with the exception of the 440 tune, it's an exact recreation.
Yeah.
Tactile surface wise. So everything that I'm doing here, it's eerie. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we can just turn this first one off for time's sake. And that's what I always recommend. Just get used to the sound. And
kind of learning the waveforms, right? Like that's you got to start with knowing your sources and knowing knowing what each one of those kind of does sonically, and how much material it gives you to do. So technically, this is known as subtractive synthesis, correct?
It's let me call this up here. Yes, ladder filter, subtractive synth.
So yeah, so the goal is like you use your oscillators to give you the material, and then you use the filter to kind of shape it and pull it back.
Exactly, and that's the order. You can see these white lines that are coming down. That's basically another way to look at that, is that you've got these sections. So the signal's coming from left to right.
Yep.
Pretty natural flow, especially when you look back when this was designed in the late 60s, the concept behind it. I just switched over to a different sound. Let me get something a little more
I think we may be hearing the lead, but we're looking at the bass.
Yeah, I want to go. There we go.
There we go.
Perfect. Where are you?
And I love, by the way, the minute you got your hands on this and got into Luna, the very first thing you did was went overboard and made like you made like what, 40 presets for yourself? Like,
I think there's 6 if we look over here. Let's go.
This is all just Huston, and you give Huston a new toy to play with, and 2 days later you've got a folder full of incredible presets.
Yeah, it's great. I want to say 70 or something.
Wow.
Like that. Where are we?
Oh, and that looks like it's still running through the diesel too.
Yeah. Let me close this up. Close this one.
There you go. Command click on that guy.
Got that. Yep. And him back up. Got some input on. Which is way down. Okay. We'll call up a preset. Back where we were, because we were just talking about them. All right. So anyway, you were talking about presets. So yeah, I've got everything. I just went in and just started creating. I call that one 70s PBS bumper. So it's just that. Now this is sort of the opposite of where we would start, because this is getting into some chordal textures. But what I want to do actually is go down, and I'm going to call up, call this one called Bold and Dirty. Another chord blip. Tell me if that's too loud, because I like things loud. Flashlight. Turn down the effects.
And this was fun as we were setting this up yesterday together. The being able to quickly throw on you had like a little chamber, a little delay, like the extra little sauce that gives the sound is so much fun.
Yep. And on this one, obviously, you'd want a little bit drier. So it's that old school Parliament kind of sound. So let's just let's go back to the beginning. And let's just explore just for a second.
Yep. Single oscillator, just.
I'm going to open this up just a little bit so we can hear it. Just about as natural as I can. Make sure the overload's off. Yep. And so we've got our triangle. And as we just sort of start moving through saw, skinny saw.
Huge difference. Yeah.
Getting a pulse region. Skinny pulse, skinny legs, I call it, because basically what happens is waveform is the lower part gets narrower as you go to the right.
Gotcha.
If you looked at it on a scope. And last, reverse saw. It's kind of fun. So now what we can do is we can also work with the tuning. Tuning, probably the area I stay in the most, is with tuning. I tend to blend triangle, pulse, the usual. Not that there's a format to it, but I like to really experiment with the tunings, which are basically just old school pipe organ tunings. They're like,
so essentially it's octave controls, right?
It's octave controls, but it actually sticks to the paradigm of organ pipes. So you've got a 32 foot, 6 foot, 2 foot. So anyway, 8 foot. And this just sounds so good already. That is that's a true Minimoog.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to keep it.
It must be hard for sounds like that. You're like, this sounds already great. Don't you always feel a little like, man, I got to do more to it, or I need to I've got 2 more oscillators. Why not use them? Do you ever find yourself struggling to hold back?
Well, here's the thing. That's an interesting question for someone who's been working on a Mini for so long and a micro Moog and all these different Moogs. It's like I'm still on one oscillator, but I'm enjoying just putting on a little bit of lip.
Yeah.
Right, so we're getting into kind of some funky fusion territory, but I can open that up. Switch that over to. Now it's opening more clarinet sound. So let's go back one more time to that reverse saw. Open this back up. Take a little bit of that squeak out on the emphasis, and do exactly what you were talking about. Or move into the area you were just mentioning. Like, how long can you go before it's like, ooh, I've got one main oscillator to bring in, and then I've got this funky third oscillator that I could bring in to either modulate, do whatever I want with it. So right now I'm going to put this on 8, also because it's just kind of where my hands are. In my head, I'm feeling sort of like, okay, this is the range. Generally, I bring this down a little bit, and then I will slowly turn on oscillator 2. And usually it's right off the bat. Sometimes it's accidental. I might be at 32, might be at 16, but if I like what I'm hearing, so it's already got that sort of groan to it.
Yeah.
And listen how that holds up so low, man. Now here's something that's really interesting, Ben, with the Moog. This is one of my favorite characters of what the Moog is all about, is the simplicity, but yet the tactile reaction you get just by subliminal volume changes. So now we're getting to some pulse width modulation. Bring it up 2, bring it up 2. Now watch what happens when I get to about 5. Or listen. Now it starts to.
It's so different. The character of it changes. Yeah.
That's where I'd bring this back down. And now, right about now, it's like, I need some love on some. We're getting there. So now what that obviously means, bringing a little bit of the color up top on the reverb, which is the chamber, I think.
Yep.
I can't get enough of that reverb. I'll pop him up to 8.
So now you got the two voices are both in the same spot, but just with different waveforms.
They're saying, yeah, and generally what I'll do is I like to experiment for a quick second, drop him down. And I already like that.
Yeah.
Because that's taking me into that kind of funky Bernie Worrell sort of, that kind of whistle. It's got a whistle kind of sound to it.
Yeah.
Okay, now here we go. This is the money right here. So now we're going to turn on 3.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to treat it as a traditional, stable oscillator. So that's what this control is. We can flip it, and we can say, okay, we want to use that as a constant oscillation to send out VCO or LFO to do something else within which isn't in the scope of what we're trying to do here. So we're going to lock that to a relative stable character. Oop, don't want to surprise yet. So I'm going to put that up on 8. What I just found out today was, because I was struggling with trying to get some of the tuning right, I was like, oh, there is a fine tune.
Mm-hmm.
So I can take and just, this is what I love too, is since it's MIDI, I can hold the note.
Damn.
Sharp. Okay, and now the icing on the cake, since we're kind of in this funk, little too much reverb, but we're in this funk mode.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just overdrive
Yeah.
external input.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a journey. So if I was teaching a class or doing some sort of talk or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
look at it from left to right. You're not dealing, like I said, with all these different parameters. CL to gain ramp 1, operator 2,
Yeah.
feeds into to operator 3, VCA. It's
Yeah. Which,
we haven't even gone downstairs.
mm-hmm.
I thought you guys did a really good job on this this first round implementation of modulation source, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And I love the fact that you've got velocity control over all this stuff.
Right. It makes it so you can be so much. You can be expressive with it. A tactile sense, right? And they spent a lot of time picking and choosing what would end up downstairs in the Minimoog. The idea was to add, again, the UA philosophy. Whenever we approach, whether it's a UAD plugin or now in Luna instruments, it's stay as faithful and true to the real instrument as possible. And then where you see opportunities, like we've had plenty of people ask, like, why not just make a poly version of this? Like, it's not that hard, right? You could just be, just duplicate, and like, it's like, no, but like, that's not the spirit. That's not.
That's just something else.
It's just something else.
It's another iteration of something else. You gotta stay true to the Minimoog for.
Yeah, you don't need that. So
look. Yeah.
But having the things that are down here, like, it's just the right amount. Having velocity control, having the key mode. I'm personally a huge fan of being able to switch from lowest to last, especially doing some octave playing, and then being able to synchronize an LFO and play with 2 different modulations. So it's just about the right amount of extra controls that you need in modern productions without going too overboard.
It gives you a perfect side-by-side sound next to the big boy himself.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. And there's plenty of things to discover down here, and aside from key mode, but once you get an LFO and where you can route these 4 to 5 different modulation sources, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, to my ears, and I know to a lot of folks' ears, is when you play. This is a more chord. That right there, that sweet spot where they just start. It's just like tuning a guitar. It's just like drop. There's no sound like that, Ben. That
I know.
will literally burn the hair. That will burn your beard off your face. That is 1976. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, so, dude, it's beautiful.
That's the extreme of going from a very simple sound earlier, where we were sort of mixing pulse, a little bit of triangle, keep things kind of straight and narrow, to really opening things up. It's full character, and I love that. I love that about this.
Oh yeah,
this plugin, this instrument.
Yeah, and that's why that was what we wanted to bring to. We wanted to bring something that would inspire people to like, that's what you ask for from your instruments, right? Is you pick up a certain guitar because it inspires you to play a certain way. Sure. And the Minimoog is no different. So what's the craziest thing that you can make a Minimoog do? Like, what's the just it's totally unexpected. Like, holy crap, I can't believe that's coming out of a synthesizer right now.
Well, you can do the classic stuff, R2D2s. But you can get into. I was doing something really dark the other day with it. Where was it? I think I was doing like. Oh, I started playing with the ARP. That's what it was. So it was so to me, that is a monophonic Minimoog, a little bit of reverb on there, but it gives me ability to launch into this just bombastic, just close it down. But then say, oh, you know what? Let's just go. Like, just flip it around.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of, this is where I work so much in, is just with being able to work in editors and be able to work in librarians and be able to create something that would take, I still have little Post-its. Sometimes I'll click up on just for a setting that I don't want to lose. But whether it's hardware or whether it's an Ableton with Wavetable or something or whatever, that's the beauty of this, is you basically have your librarian over to the left.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. There's some great startup presets in there too, man. I went through those. They were fantastic. And, back to your question about the craziest thing, it's just like,
bro, and the low end on that, like, just even
across to the rest of the world through the internet, but
it's
right now,
it's like in my headphones right now, which is what everyone's Jeez, that's so cool.
And then you can just get pretty. You can just do. What I call the happy, you could just open it up. So, just that quickly.
Yeah.
Not a lot of sense outside of just standalone single or paraphonic VCOs, true VCO, the Moog stuff, Dave Smith stuff that's going to do that.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of room for everyone to play. There's plenty of stuff to work with. I know you're a Sub 37 fan.
Yep.
A diehard Sub 37 fan. It sits right here for that reason, but this is not far away.
Yeah, exactly.
Now dude, listen, I've made presets for third-party Moog plugins. Go back over a decade.
Yeah.
No, it's a whole different game.
Well, it's kind of it's one of those things where you think that you would be, at a certain point you think you've discovered it all, but you haven't.
Did I hear the doorbell?
I heard is ding dong. Who's there? Oh, look at this.
So I put the shout out this week to my friend Michael Stein. I was like, hey, you know a thing or two about Moogs. Why don't you come join us? So Michael, myself, and our good friend Protavolt are launching a podcast next week called Synth Lord. So we'll be talking all things synths.
Oh, nice.
Sound design, the three of us. Protavolt, a lot of folks know him on Instagram. Does amazing synthwave covers and wears the gloves, and himself and Michael and myself, we're just gonna get on and nerd out and have open up the chat and go all things synths. Hey, Michael,
amazing.
How are you, man?
What's up, Michael?
Good. Hey, Ben. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Holy crap, man! You just dropped in with like the most epic backdrop. That's a virtual. Is that a virtual Zoom backdrop that you have there, or is this real life?
One of the few I cycle through.
Man, it's so cool to have you here. And I know you've also got a decent amount of hands-on experience with the real Minimoog as well. So Huston's been kind of taking us tour de force, kind of showing us, giving us the the lay of the land and showing off a bunch of the possibilities with it. But I'd love what's been your experience with Minimoogs and with just Moogs in general?
I mean, obviously, I have this one behind me. This is the reissue. I got that at the marketplace at Moog in Asheville, I think, when it was the last. No, it was in Durham, but it's number 8. I don't know, and I was there working for Switched On, which is a music store. So that's kind of where I've heard the gamut of Minimoogs. Once they've been serviced, I would always have to.
Yeah, did you tell me there was? Weren't you telling me at one point you had 3 of them in front of you at one point?
Well, yeah, I mean, at that same marketplace, Switched On had a shop, and we had like 2 or 3 Minimoogs, and you could put on headphones, and there was like the dark wood cherry one, like next to a walnut one, and you could kind of like put them on and like hear the different levels of kind of how the distortion differed. And even with like them doing like a full-on souped up to spec repair, they still sound different.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing that a lot of people may not realize, especially with older synths, right? Every generation, like even just like ones that were 10 serial numbers away from each other, can sound vastly different.
I mean, they all sounded like a Minimoog, though. That one sounds like a Minimoog. I don't know if the new ones are a little cleaner because they're not aged, I don't know, 50 years or something.
Yeah, you just gotta put it in your synth cellar. You gotta keep it at a constant temperature and humidity underground.
I don't know what serial number
keep
this
them in
is.
the worst environment you can.
I don't know what serial number this guy is, but I know you've got it beat on 8, so I'll give you that one. So.
Yeah, I guess if it was a competition, I would need 1.
You need
do that.
I don't know. It's not like it's number 8. It's like number, thousands and 8.
Yeah. So, Michael, so you've obviously you've fallen off the deep end of some synthesizers as well. What for people who are maybe a little bit newer to synths, what's kind of how do you develop a ear and a taste for all the different types of synths that are available to us these days?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I mean, I have like go-to things or I've desired them from researching them in tracks or what production was using what, or just what was available that was cheap. Like I've never really bought anything full price, maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. So it was like the hunt for them. I know Ryan's like that as well. Just like you have a couple things always on the radar, like, and then I did repair. So I was always just kind of buying them based on what I could get. But then I've really drawn to ARPs and Rollins. And then I know what I want them for now. Like I use the Prophet 5 so much, I got 2 of them and 2600 too. You just like keep a lookout, and if sometimes you love shit so much you buy more than one, like the ARP Solus. I don't know.
Do you ever have a hard time changing the settings especially on these analog ones that have no recall?
Yeah, various, here and there. Some of them, I don't know. It depends how crazy it is. Mostly the Euro, or like the modular stuff. If you
Mhm.
have something that's real specific, you can't really tear it down.
Yeah.
Or take pictures. That's what I do. I just
It's
literally.
if
I
you're
can't
using
time it.
any kind of cross mod or FM or anything that tracks and scales, like you're pretty much like never gonna get that back if it's like super nuanced.
Yep.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm curious, Mike, have you downloaded Luna and gotten a chance to check out the
Yeah, Huston
UAD?
got me all set up with that, and I got the Minimoog downloaded today, and then I first was playing it, and I was like, "Holy crap, this sounds really good."
Mm-hmm.
Even the drive sounded really good. I just noticed that it doesn't have any dynamic volume changes when you like turn up the resonance or like do the drive. It doesn't really. It stays constant in volume, but tonally, it sounds. I was like, wow, you could totally use this in a track or on, live or even just anything. It sounds like a Minimoog for sure. And then I did the AB, which I mean, I probably shouldn't really do AB, but I did.
So how'd you feel? How'd you feel after the AB?
I mean, I still thought it sounded really great.
Nice.
It just like it really revealed a little bit more about it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't spent that much time with it, but it has the heart and the character of the sound in it.
Right.
Yeah.
You had like a day, right? I think last night I was like, just download it, dude.
Yeah.
Because I knew, I knew you'd like it though. It's hard.
Yeah,
not.
it's great.
Yeah.
Right.
It's got like the bass extension, like it just sounded totally there. It's not until you open the filter past like 3/4 of the way that you can hear like a little bit more of the detail. That's, I guess, I don't know. It sounds really good.
Hell yeah. Well,
I'm curious. I was going to say, I'm really curious how I've been thinking ahead, like settling it into a track.
Mm-hmm.
And I can already envision 3 or 4 of the minis in. Because the way I work right now, and I think Michael's going to experiment with this too, is I'm running live into Luna.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm monitoring. So I'm basically treating Luna as a tape machine. But
Yeah.
I'm already envisioning having 2 to 3, maybe 4 minis ready
Mm-hmm.
and go that route of just analog tracking against live, which is sequencing, and then just recording those parts.
Yeah.
Already.
You could allocate your MIDI channels to multiple instances of it and play it like a polysynth.
I believe so. I'm not sure if it can do it by default because like the poly chaining, you got to have something that can help split the voices, right? To be able to say like, hey, you go to channel 1, you go to channel 2, 3, or 4. But I'm sure I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty positive there's got to be a in the box poly chainer, right?
Dude, speaking. Go ahead, Michael.
I don't know. I'm sure. That's something I've never tried to do. So.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of polychaining, Ben, I have to show him, man.
Yeah.
There's you ever heard the Mondo Vox by Future Retro?
No, what's that one?
It was like a MIDI polychainer. It took MIDI signals and then it would route them to different channeled outputs. And then it could do like the voice allocation, but it could also arpeggiate through them. So you could get like 4 of the new MS-20s or this was like, it came out right when that was kind of the only analog synth you could buy, that and like the Mini Brutes.
Mm-hmm.
But so you could do that, or you could set up 4 and then you could even have an arpeggiator set like mode where it allocates the voices to sequencing.
Yeah.
So you kind of do like pseudo monopoly stuff where it's like going to the next voice in the chord.
That's super cool.
But yeah, I don't know hardware much, or software much.
So Ben showed me this. I just wanted to share it with the planet because this is the most badass thing ever. Right before we went on air, Ben was like, "Oh, have you done the stereo pair?" Going through and showing me the macros to get there, and basically assigning 2 Moogs side by side, but in true stereo.
Just put them on the same channel.
Yeah. So you record enable the 2 of them, and if you can even pull up the exact same preset, so you can have identical settings on 2 different instances of the Minimoog. And of course, you think like if you do this with audio, right? You duplicate left to right channel and put them there, and it will just fold down to mono. But since the plugin for the Minimoog, it's doing so much non-linearity that even on the identical settings, you get this crazy cool stereo effect, almost like double tracking.
Yeah, and there it is. I don't know if you've got it up, Ben. I mean, I'm sharing the screen, but I've got the one on the left, a totally different preset than the one on the right.
Yeah.
The one on the right's a little bit, it's up an octave, and it's a little bit pointier and pinchier.
Man, that overload, the feedback sounded so accurate, like the harmonics. I was really blown away in the amount of like sub that builds up.
You can get some crazy. You can have like a lead thing, and if you get it set just right, you can get some crazy subharmonic action happening.
Yeah, because that's what I'll do over here. Is if you crank the resonance to self oscillation, you can bring in the feedback amount and then get it back to a stable sound that you can play. It's not self oscillating, but it has all these rich harmonics.
It's crazy too. I was doing some carpless stuff earlier and just using Oscillator 3 to do some FM characteristic, just driving, and I got into that with the external. Just by the contour coming back, it suddenly left chaos volcanic level and actually had some pitch stability. But here's what you're talking about, Michael, just pulling up that overload. You can see.
Can you guys hear that, huh?
They're screaming.
Yeah, but sorry, we're using a little trick in the background to send audio full stereo to me and out to the broadcast.
I just wanted to share that is one of the most, is glorious sound hearing that like that. What's interesting is just getting an exact duplicate, pop an octave up, move it over.
I guess you could also map the same CC on your MIDI controller to like. You could emulate like the parallel filters in the Voyager, where you just like tune the cutoffs like a spread, and then map it the same. So you have the one like doing the.
Yep. So we get the overlap filters that kind of move together.
Yeah, doing that together. Yeah.
Well, it's cool. And I've seen some people have already messed around with running the Minimoog into like the Moog XL filter UAD plugin. Because there's it's a different. Slightly different character of a filter, but again, the controls that you're given there. Now you've got like a sequencer. You can do the like cool sequence filtering, and just a simple drive selection, but also having the different cutoff. The different slope availabilities that you don't necessarily get just standard in a Minimoog.
This is dope too. One thing I wanted before we left.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I haven't explored this yet.
Oh dude.
Oh nice.
Well, let's play this one for Mike.
I won't be able to hear that.
Oh.
You don't want to hear it.
Here, so
you don't want to hear it, but you
Houston,
can imagine.
You can let's change your Zoom settings. So Michael, he's got to hear it. You can't. Well, I mean, you could definitely imagine what he's about to play. Go to your Zoom settings and let's go from streaming mic to streaming plus
console.
Yep.
What is the note down at the bottom? Is it if it's
so you can do
a note, a dot, and a trip? What is it?
Well, so those are different presets. So if you wanted to switch between different arpeggiator speeds, it lets you
right where it says note and the light is lit in the middle.
Oh, I think that's for going between dot. Standard, dot, and triplet
which is fantastic. So you got the whole 24 tuplet stuff, and it's great.
128 dot. That's probably the highest resolution of
known to man, known to planet Earth.
Right.
And I want to make sure I'm on the right track. So I'll call this guy up. So let's look at that for a second.
That chord delay sounds nice.
The chord delay. So there's 16, there's 32. Take this up an octave. Pop him up.
Oh, swing control. And the range down there, is that just showing what notes?
Yeah, if I do this.
So yeah, you can limit it. So if you want to only trigger arpeggiators at a certain key range and leave below off, it lets you do
right.
Like that, Ben.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's at first you're like, oh, okay, and then you're like, whoa, wait, I see.
It can do some. Well, there's also some shapes in there that I don't recall really seeing. Like the alt high and low ones are kind of crazy. With the way it maneuvers around.
Yeah. It's fun. I didn't know it was there, and then I discovered it. It's great because it can just sit in line.
So that's just native to Luna then.
Correct. Yep. So that's ARP is included for free with Luna, so you can use on any instrument track. So whether you're using,
I noticed I had that in the Studer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you probably already so if you already own the Studer UAD plugin, you get the Suna Luna extension for free.
That's fire. I mean, just putting that on.
Same with the Neve summing.
The Neve summing is a whole new beast, so that one's not included for free.
Right.
But it does come with a 14-day free trial, which hopefully everybody has gotten the notification by now. We actually just did a big demo reset for all Luna users. So anyone that it's been in Luna and used up their demos for either the Minimoog or for the Neve summing, we just literally like last night, this morning, finished the running through resetting everybody's demos because we've got a new Luna session coming featuring the Minimoog.
That's smart. You reset it so everyone can follow along, pretty much.
Exactly. Yep. So and it's
or you just have to buy something new. I notice every time I just buy one plugin, I get them all back.
Yep. You know the hack. You know the little shortcut of anytime you buy a UAD plugin, it resets your UAD authorizations for demos as well, which is I know a lot of people have gotten a lot of mileage out of that little trick.
I just keep buying the same $50 plugin over and over.
Smart.
I don't know that way.
You're a smart man. You're a clever guy, obviously. Right. Well, Michael, what man, you have such an insane setup. I'd love to have you back on for a full kind of geek going through the setup because it looks insane. But do you have any favorite pieces that are sitting there behind you?
Man, I don't know. There are a lot of favorites all the time.
Yeah.
There's always things in the shop too. Like I've been getting a lot of use out of my Jupiter 6, which is usually over there behind the Jupiters, the other Jupiter.
Notice he said Jupiter's.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I really like that one a lot. I tend to use it a whole lot, and I have this Oberheim 2 voice, which I love for obviously leads, and bass and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love the Oberheim sound, and so the 6 is like I don't own an Oberheim polysynth except for the Matrix 1000, which is great. Wait, I have an expander. I should probably shut up. But
Ben started it. I'm just smiling.
It's got to be older, It's got I don't have an XA or an OB8 or a OBX, which is what I really want.
I'm gonna go get Ryan's.
The Jupiter 6 can get me kind of to that brass kind of Oberheim drivey sound.
Hey, speaking of Ben, I wanted to mention this is why I laid it here. I pulled it out of my pedal board. I'm playing this Moog.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the 910, is there a UA plugin for an octave divider for a sub octave like the Boss right here?
So for sub octave stuff, there's So the 910s would be the first one my mind goes to. The other one that has some octaving, there's a BX subsynth. That's a little bit more.
Love the BX subsynth I use on a lot of mixes.
Because I really want to experiment because I use this guy on the Mini a lot.
Well, you're talking about plugins, right?
Well, Huston's showing off his the guitar pedal version of it, but yeah, the try to emulate stuff like that. The 910 would be the one that's at least the most accurate in terms of being able to throw an octave down below it. But yeah, the subsynth, man, it's like the old school DBX,
awesome.
Those disco boom boxes.
That's what I want.
It's got saturation built in, and you can change like tracking, and you can like dial in where it's tuned to, and add like some parallel compression. I love that. I love that on kick drums or obviously bass lines because it tracks.
Yeah,
it's something you're not going to get out of like that Waves thing. I always forget what it's called.
The R bass or Max bass. Yeah,
Renaissance bass. You can only set it to like 60 or something. And then isn't there something called like Voice of God?
Yep, that's the Little Labs one. So that one's closer to R bass, where you set it to a single frequency, and then it adds. It's like a band pass thing. That's
plugin is the most amazing little plugin. The Little Labs.
I don't have that one. That
Oh,
might be the $50 plugin, actually.
that's the secret weapon, man.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't tell you about that one, but that, oh my gosh.
I can't mix a kick drum without the Vogue by my side.
Gotta have
Nice.
it.
Yeah. Well, so let's don't want to keep you guys here too late tonight, but I do have one more question. So, any go-to effects that you like to use with the Minimoog specifically?
Specifically with the Minimoog? I mean, a great pairing is just always going to be a tape echo, like 201 or stage echo or something. I was running it just, I don't know. No, I like to, maybe with the Minimoog, it's fun to keep like classic effects.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some weird effects last week where I was running it through a bunch of like harmonizers and stuff, but I was making sound effects. I wasn't actually really doing as much melodic stuff with it. I just like a classic little bit of tape echo and spring, really.
Yeah.
Might be my favorite on it.
Mm-hmm. And why spring as opposed to something like a plate or a hall?
I guess, I don't know. I like texture typically. I like a little bit of muddiness in my music, and I'll clean it out until, right before it's to make it good again. But I like a lot of recording a lot of crud and then just kind of like surgically having to, it makes mixing harder, but I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Huston? Do you have any go-to effects for the Minimoog?
Yeah, I do. I think probably the Eventide. Well, it depends. If I'm playing this guy, it's Eventide 910, Strymon Big Sky. In the box, it's Valhalla. All day. Love his stuff. And then the Eventide Black Hole is kind of my thing. However, now that I'm playing this mini inside Luna.
Oh,
I think he was going to say he's loving that Korg delay.
I think so.
I love those too. I love 80s like and 90s digital, like low headroom.
Was that? Sorry, Huston, you dropped out. Were you about to say the Korg?
Oh no.
Oh, we lost your audio.
I come in here and then hijack.
Just a bull in a china shop, Michael. Oh, now we hear you.
Yeah. No, I was going to say EMT 250 and Capital.
Nice.
Nice.
All day.
Those EMT plates are pretty magical. Sometimes any sound, if you just go 100 wet and smear it out, it's a beautiful sound, no matter what you put in it.
It just is. There's you can't touch it.
Yeah.
I love 480, all that stuff. But you know what? We're in a really good time for reverbs right now. I mean, you've got the Valhalla, you've got the UA with the plates, you got the Black Hole with Eventide. It's over.
It's almost kind of hard now to
pick which one,
and you have to pick something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's we're drowning in incredibly good sounding choices to choose from.
I'll still run out to so I really like the H3000 reverb, even though somebody from Eventide told me that it was like the most afterthought part of it. They used up all the DSP. They didn't really have anything left. So they wrote these really scaled down algorithms that didn't use up a lot of DSP. So it's not complex reverb, but I think it's the 12-bit converters and just the amount of it's noisy and it's pretty lo-fi in a weird, in this way.
Yeah.
I think that
I get something out of it.
I think what synth you're playing, I'll go to a different reverb and delay chain on the sub 37.
Right. I guess that's for drums and vocals. I don't use on synths. Yeah, it depends on the chain for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, guys, man, like I said, we could sit here for days on end and just continue to nerd out. But this has been so really insightful, and Huston, especially your grasp over sound designing and synth programming, and being able to just grab knobs and go and then create something that not only is good for the moment, but also good in perpetuity as presets and as material that people are able to draw inspiration from. Is so cool to kind of learn a little bit about that process that you go through, but then more importantly, just to see it in action and see how easy and intuitive you make it. It's super inspiring to all of us, I think, to see that sort of thing come together.
Thanks, man.
And Michael, thank you so much for crashing our party. No, I'm just thanks
for letting me jump in.
Yeah, that was super fun. We were definitely as soon as Huston mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, hell yeah, like send him the link. I love getting Zoom bombed by
definitely my first Zoom bomb.
Well, at least you were wearing pants for it. That's really what matters, is that you didn't show up to as a Zoom bomb without bottomless. I've seen.
Hey man, listen, Ben, I'm telling you, you guys have done a great job on this plugin.
Oh, thank you.
So fun to play. At the end of the day, that's why I made so many presets in a few days. It's fantastic. So, and two, one thing I wanted to mention, but what I discovered with Ableton running through, there's no latency. There's none. So when I'm moving around on the Luna Mini, there's nothing, which is awesome.
Right.
That can, I'm sure Michael can agree too. It's like that can just buzzkill it so fast.
Latency.
Just even if large or minimal, it's just there's a thing, and you just kind of go and instead of
it can mess up a performance.
It's a beautiful thing, and I don't know anything about Luna more than just kind of poking around at the moment, but I can see it's going to be a fun journey for sure.
Hell yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks everybody at home for joining us this afternoon. We're going to be back tomorrow. We've got 2 shows tomorrow afternoon as well. We've got Jimmy Levi from the Album Leaf. He's got an incredible setup as well. That is again. This is the problem with me hanging out with other synth nerds, is it's just making me want more synths. I'm going to try my hardest to resist, but we're going to have some fun geeking out with him tomorrow morning. And then also in the afternoon, we've got Ariel Rekscheid, who's going to be walking us through some of the stuff that he's doing on productions for bands like the Vampire Weekend, etc. And then Friday, we've got the incredible band Fart Barf on at 2. And then at 4 o'clock, we've got a great Q&A set up with Patrick Aurelio, who's the product manager at UA for the Minimoog. So the guy who knows all the behind the scenes info and all the little nooks and crannies about the Minimoog. We're gonna have him on Friday to pester him with as many questions as we possibly can. Thank you so much, guys, everybody, for tuning in, and thank you, Huston and Michael, for joining. And I'll see everybody back here tomorrow.
You got it.
Awesome.
Peace.
See you.
Bye-bye.